It's 3 in the morning in Tokyo, and one small building is still glowing. No crowds, no traffic, just a single storefront, lit up like daylight, quietly waiting for anyone who might need it. Millions of people walk past a building exactly like this almost every day of their lives. Most of them will never once stop to ask what it actually is. They think they know, a place to grab a rice ball, a coffee, a charger you forgot at home. But this small, ordinary building is doing something far stranger than selling snacks. It is quietly holding an entire country together. By the end of this documentary, you will never look at a Japanese convenience store the same way again. To understand why, we have to go back to a single afternoon in 1974, in a quiet part of Tokyo most visitors have never heard of. There was a small liquor shop here, run by a family for generations. Nothing special, nothing that suggested it would change the country. A young man named Kenji Yamamoto had just taken it over. He was 24 years old, and the shop his family had run for years was starting to struggle. Around the same time, a Japanese retail company had quietly signed a licensing deal with an American chain most people in Japan had never heard of, 7-Eleven. Yamamoto didn't know it yet, but he was about to become the very first person in the country to convert an ordinary shop into something new. On May 15, 1974, his renovated liquor store reopened as Japan's first 7-Eleven. At the time, it looked like a curiosity, a slightly larger shop, open a little longer than usual, selling a slightly wider range of goods. Nobody predicted that within 50 years, more than 55,000 stores just like it would be operating across the entire country.
So what actually happened in between? For the first few years, these new stores struggled to explain themselves. They looked like small supermarkets. They didn't yet have an identity of their own. Then, in 1978, something small happened that quietly changed everything. 7-Eleven Japan began selling packaged rice balls, onigiri. It sounds almost too simple to matter, but it wasn't really about the rice. For the first time, these stores were offering something Japanese customers already trusted in a format built for people with no time to spare. Fast, familiar, reliable at any hour. Sales climbed. Other chains noticed. Lawson and FamilyMart, both founded in these same years, began racing to build their own version of the same idea. By 1980, there were already 10,000 of these stores across Japan. Within 12 years, that number would double again. But recognition alone doesn't explain what happened next, because somewhere in the 1980s, these stores quietly stopped being simple shops and became something closer to a nervous system. In 1982, 7-Eleven Japan installed something that sounds almost boring on paper, a point-of-sale system. In practice, it meant every single store could track in real time exactly what its neighborhood needed, hour by hour. A store near an office district could stock more coffee and lunch sets before 9 in the morning. A store near a school could stock more snacks by 3 in the afternoon. A store in a quiet residential street could shift almost entirely around evening dinner sets. The stores weren't just selling things anymore, they were listening. And once a system starts listening that closely, it starts being trusted with more. Today, a Japanese convenience store isn't only where you buy dinner.
It's often where you pay your electricity bill, where you withdraw cash, where you print a document you forgot at home, or pick up a parcel that couldn't be delivered while you were at work. Look closely and you'll notice something strange. This tiny building is quietly performing the job of a bank, a post office, a printing shop, and a restaurant, all inside a space smaller than most living rooms. Nobody planned for that to happen all at once. It simply became the only place that was always open, always nearby, and always ready. And in a country where working hours run long and city apartments run small, always ready turned out to be worth more than almost anything else you could sell. But there's a deeper reason these stores earned this level of trust, and it has very little to do with convenience. In March of 2011, a massive earthquake and tsunami struck the northeast coast of Japan. Roads collapsed, supply chains broke down overnight. Entire communities were suddenly cut off from food, water, and basic supplies. In the chaos that followed, convenience store chains did something remarkable. Using logistics networks built for restocking snacks and rice balls, several chains redirected trucks, rerouted deliveries, and pushed emergency supplies into disaster zones faster than much larger institutions could respond.
The same quiet system that had spent decades tracking coffee sales by the hour was suddenly the fastest way to get water to people who had lost everything. After that, these stores were never seen quite the same way again. What had looked like convenience turned out to be something closer to a public safety net hiding in plain sight. There's one more layer to the story.
One that has almost nothing to do with logistics and everything to do with people. Japan is aging faster than almost any country on Earth. In many small towns, the local supermarket closed years ago. The nearest big box store might be an hour away, and many elderly residents no longer drive. For some of these residents, the local convenience store isn't simply the closest shop. It's one of the only places they still walk to every single day. A familiar face behind the counter. A short conversation about the weather. A small, quiet routine that hasn't changed in years, even as almost everything else around it has. Nobody designed these stores to fight loneliness. That was never the plan. But in some of Japan's quietest towns, that may be exactly what they've become. Which brings us back to where this story started. A small liquor shop and a 24-year-old shopkeeper who had no idea what he was actually building. Kenji Yamamoto wasn't trying to create a piece of national infrastructure. He was trying to save a family business. But that one small decision in one quiet corner of Tokyo eventually grew into a network of more than 55,000 stores, a system so reliable that an entire country quietly built parts of its daily life around it without ever really noticing it happen. The next time you walk past one of these glowing storefronts at any hour of the day or night, you might see it a little differently. Not just a place to buy a rice ball, but one small, ordinary building, quietly doing the job of holding an entire country together, one counter at a time.